Hello, my name's Carmen Snowdon from WRC, and I'm going to talk to you today about a topic that I'm very passionate about and has stemmed from my sort of 15 years working in the demand management field, and that is, where should our water efficiency focus be? Should it be on households or non-households? So what I'm going to cover today is a little bit of background from a paper I gave in 2018. And explore some of our societal trends and how they impact on water use, and then bring that right up to date with what COVID-19 has the potential to show us before finally drawing some conclusions. So before I go further, just want to explore a little bit about PCC, per capita consumption. So water companies in England and Wales now have performance targets based on the concept of driving down per capita consumption. And on face value, this is great news, as it means we might focus less on the numbers game between leakage estimation and PCC, and more on actually making changes to reduce each of these elements. However, per capita consumption reflects household consumption, as seen by the definition on the slide. And I have long held a concern that this might drive us to spend customer money chasing demand reduction in ways that might not be the most effective, and also that it could leave us exposed to not achieving the desired end goal of actually reducing abstraction, because there is no transparency to trends in non-household water consumption. In 2018, I presented at the Future Water Conference and used my own house as an example of how little we should really trust the concept of per capita consumption, average per capita consumption, or indeed even measured consumption data. PCC and PHC, per household consumption, are highly variable and driven by many different influences from technologies, behaviours, and importantly, lifestyle. Over the past 10 years, we've, at face value, apparently managed to reduce PCC from around 150 litres per person per day to around 140. Hurrah, you might say, but I want to spend a few minutes taking a look to see if we can really trust these numbers. So here is one of my water bills from 2018. For a little bit of context, I live in a small end of terraced house, just me and my husband. And so from the information on the bill, it would suggest that I am a relatively efficient water user. The consumption is lower than the low consumption for a two-person household. My consumption equates here to 132 litres per person per day. And of course, amongst the water efficiency community, this is probably what you would expect to find. But let's take a little bit of a closer look behind my front door. So firstly, at this time, unbeknownst to Thames Water, my husband and I had a second property in London where he worked. So during the week, there was actually only ever one person living at home. And then at weekends, there would be two of us. Okay, that might explain the quite low consumption. But also, unbeknownst to Thames Water, I'd recently taken out a new gym membership to a rather nice gym, and regularly, 2 to 3 days a week, I was going to the gym before heading into the office and taking my showers there. I also work very long days, and so more often than not, I would only actually eat one meal at home, not even having a coffee before I even left house. So what else could be going on then? And the answer is of course very simple. When we are at home, there are activities which are inefficient in their use. Long hot showers are the order of the day for my husband, and he also likes to relax in the garden. So PCC figures can, to me, really mask the truth about whether we're managing to tackle genuinely wasteful uses of water. In these consumption figures, there's no reflection of showers, meals, and other life outside of our home. Now, I don't have time today to go into my hypotheses about leaky loos as well, but I'd actually argue that our baseline per capita consumption could well be rising steadily because of these, and it's another area of focus that we really need to give some attention to. But what I want to explore more is about our societal trends. And over the coming few slides, I'm going to share some of the macro trends that have been affecting our water consumption. Now, in light of COVID-19, a number of these have changed dramatically, but we may find ourselves reverting to these behaviours, and so we ought to really bear them in mind as we move forward. I'm not trying to cover all trends. I won't even mention things like how Snapchat is driving increased washing machine use, because I'm definitely not a fashion expert, but these are really just some examples. So first of all, there are sources of information about our lifestyles from outside the water sector that can be incredibly informative. So for instance, take the fact that we are apparently fitter and healthier than ever before. Before March 2020, we were seeing more people exercising in gyms and running or cycling to work. But that also means that it takes with us a shift in the location of our daily showers out of the home, in the same way I had been doing, and in some cases fitting in extra showers into our days. We're also moving to be more environmentally friendly. But with every single reusable bottle or coffee cup that we were using regularly, they come with particularly fiddly mouthpieces and seals around the cups, almost all of which are hand wash only, and will give rise to more water use, some in our home, some at work, and some elsewhere. There's also a trend towards a higher proportion of people working and mothers working. And we can see now that many nurseries provide breakfast, lunch and dinner for the children attending them. And there's been a rise in breakfast clubs and after school clubs as people are working longer days. Working from home had also been falling slightly, with a question of, is it out of fashion to be out the office? And it's not just children's meals that have been more frequently taken outside the home. You can see from this report that Deloitte published in 2017 that the millennials, Generation Z, 18 to 24-year-olds, actually more frequently eat out of the home for snacks, dinner, lunch and breakfast than any of the older age groups in the study. So we're pushing our water consumption out of our kitchens and into restaurants. Now, obviously, in March or slightly before March this year, we were struck by a global pandemic. And this caused a whole kind of suite of changes with our lifestyles and with our interaction with society. There's been a number of pieces of work happening in the water sector showing how consumption in residential areas has risen significantly as people were confined to their homes, and consumption within areas where they have lots of commuters come in, so say central London, overall demand dropped significantly, reflecting the fact that people just weren't using town centres so much. And it was also, of course, confounded by periods of hot, dry weather, which did result in unprecedented discretionary use. But I'm going to look at a silver lining to this. It's actually a really great opportunity, bearing in mind what I've just been saying about the previous trends to pushing water use out into society, to understand more about how much water people actually use for their lives. So not just their historic uses in their homes, but for their whole function and being, for living, socialising and being people. And it really is an unprecedented data set when it's separated from the influence of weather. If you're interested in the influence of weather, please join us for the Royal Statistical Society conference next week, where we've got papers exploring this topic. So I'm really hoping that we can use this time period right through, probably through 2020 to date, to explore the relative efficiency of water use in the home versus society. So why do I say that? Well, we really don't understand whether or not it is more efficient to use water centrally in these societal establishments like restaurants or individually in our homes. And we really need to identify the most sustainable ways to drive down consumption. it might be better to reduce water in the home, but it might not be. We don't know the answer to that. And we don't want to create a situation where meeting a PCC target becomes about who can do the cleverest maths. We've got to focus on achieving genuine reductions in abstraction. If we can understand actually where people are interacting with water throughout their entire day, we will then be able to engage with customers much more effectively on the topic, which will allow us to actually find ways to facilitate people achieving what they want to achieve, whether that's being refreshed before they make it into the office, or whether it's being able to socialise over a meal, and actually find ways to help them reduce their water use in those situations. So I'm really hoping we can find a silver lining for COVID-19 in terms of being able to really get a greater grip on this water use and then target our efficiency actions in the right location, not necessarily just focusing solely on the home. Here are some of the references that I've referred to in this presentation. And if anyone would like to contact me, you're more than welcome to. Thank you.